I wanted to bring today's episode to the podcast talking about faith and fertility. Today, we're focusing on the Jewish faith and how we can deepen our connection during the fertility journey. We're talking about specific scriptures, some prayer, some rules perhaps around faith and how that can impact the fertility journey. So excited for you to listen to this episode. And thanks again for being here. Registration is now open for our free fertility challenge. This live fertility challenge starts on Monday, November the 8th. Go to fertilitydietfreebie.com. That's fertilitydietfreebie, FREEBIE.com to register. And in this live 5-day challenge, you'll learn which foods are right for your fertility so that you can prepare for pregnancy success, which foods could be harming your fertility so that you don't waste time consuming the wrong diet, simple steps you can implement right away so that you can optimize your preconception health and get pregnant naturally. I've worked with a chef with a nutrition background to help prepare these fall and winter recipes that will help prepare your body for a baby. This challenge is for you and your partner. Go to Fertility Diet Freebie. That's fertilitydietfreebie.com to join. There's a lot of information about which supplements are right for fertility. And like most couples I speak with, you are probably taking a lot of supplements. But are these supplements optimizing or harming your fertility? That's why we recommend professional grade supplements without harmful dyes, fillers, or top allergens so that you can prepare your body in the best way for pregnancy. And as you may know, we take a functional approach to fertility. And while supplements are included in your customized protocols, which are based on testing, they are only part of the equation because there's no pill you can take that will out-supplement the basics, such as poor diet, dysregulated sleep, either moving too much or not enough, and not dealing with chronic stress. So we do recommend basic supplements for both men and women. And these are essential starters that you need to have right now to optimize your preconception health. And I'm excited to offer you a special discount at our Fab Fertile store. You'll receive 15% discount on our professional grade supplements. So simply go to Fab Fertile Store. That's FAB fertilestore.com to access the basic supplements so that you can prepare your body for pregnancy success without wasting time and money on supplements that may not be right for you. Go to Fab Fertile Store. That's fabfertilestore.com and save 15% on your order. Hey there. Thanks so much for listening to the Get Pregnant Naturally podcast. And I've got a favor to ask you. If you are enjoying learning about the functional approach to fertility, consider going to iTunes and rating and reviewing the podcast. This is how it helps the show reach more people that are struggling with infertility, knowing that there's another approach that really can get to the bottom of why it's not working in the first place. So all you need to do is, if you're on the app or the desktop, just go in and consider leaving a 5-star rating and leave a review. And there is step-by-step instructions in the show notes showing you exactly how to do that. So if you can just take a few minutes, just take the few minutes right now. You can pause this recording, come back, leave the review. It would really mean the world to me and help others that are on the fertility journey as well. Take care. I didn't need to go to donor eggs. Obviously, I don't regret it. I have beautiful children. I could have done things differently, restored. I was still cycling back in my 20s. I could have looked at my health, the environmental toxins, the stress I was under.
Many women are being told their eggs are too old. That's often merely an assumption that's not based on actual evidence. The reason being that there is no direct test of egg quality. You can't test egg quality.
It's the man who's got a food sensitivity or he has a zinc deficiency.
Like, there can be a root cause to these symptoms that are, quote unquote, period problems, that the doctor will pass you a pill without any question of why.
And some part of you knows that if you can reframe your journey from not one of struggle, or if it is struggle, learn how to embrace the struggle. Learn how to embrace it.
Most conditions in the child occur during the 9 months of development. It's the genetic switches are turned on or turned off, and they're pre-programmed. So you are in such a powerful, amazing position to do amazing things for your kids.
Why is IVF the first step? Because we believe it should be the last step. Welcome to Get Pregnant Naturally, where functional medicine and natural fertility solutions will help you get pregnant and have your baby. Hey there, I'm Sarah Clark, founder of Fab Fertile and your host. I believe the functional approach is the first step for anyone struggling with infertility, and my aim is to help you get pregnant naturally. Today, I'm welcoming Amira Posner back to the podcast, and we're digging into how to deepen your faith during the fertility journey from a Jewish perspective. Amira shares her own journey with male factor infertility and what to do when you go down the infertility rabbit hole of research and more on one of our first episodes, episode number 1. So Amira is part of my team here at Fab Fertile. It's a professional therapist with a bachelor and master's degree in social work from the University of Manitoba. And she also has formal training in hypnotherapy, Reiki, and the relaxation response. Thanks so much for listening. I'm so thankful you're here. Make sure you hit subscribe. And if you know someone else who is on the fertility journey, please share this podcast with them. Hey, Amira, excited to have you back on the podcast.
Thank you, Sarah. I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me to talk about such an important topic.
Awesome. Yeah, I wanted to, well, first of all, so Amira's been on the podcast a number of times, and you can listen to, I think this podcast number 2, where she shares her own story and actually going down the rabbit hole of infertility. But can you just kind of give us your share a little bit about really how you got into the field again, and just so we can know a little bit more about you again, if this is the first time hearing Amira.
Yeah, so I'm a therapist, and my niche practice is helping individuals and couples struggling with infertility. And I came into this work very organically after my own journey with secondary infertility. So we conceived our daughter, and it was when we were trying for baby number 2 that we had issues. To make a long story very short, we went to the fertility clinic and they did all the tests, and we had a number of different issues that led us to be doing IVF. We had a success. Our story was very happy in the ending. We ended up having twins. My twins are now 11 years old. I can't believe it.
Wow.
Yeah. And it was really my own journey and the devastation and heartache that I went through during it that led me to this work. I was a social worker by profession before, and having gone through this, I didn't feel like there was a lot of support out there. So going through it, I decided that if I get out of this alive, I'm going to help others also make it out. So when my twins turned 2, I started working in this area really out of, passion, and now it's just kind of snowballed and it's become my full-time job, and I love it, and I'm so passionate about helping women and couples build their family. There's so many different ways today in 2021. So it was my own journey, and that really was the catalyst to my career.
Yeah, I love that. It's interesting. I don't think any of us that sort of gone through this and we're like, wait a minute, I never saw myself, I'm like a big planner. And I'm like, how did I end up here? And it's interesting. Yeah, it's like, you don't want other people to struggle like we did, and to help people on the journey is very rewarding. And so today we're going to be digging into faith and how we can deepen our faith on the fertility journey, how faith can impact us on the fertility journey. How can we deepen our connection with God during the fertility journey?
Yeah, I think it's a really good question, and it needs to be, if you don't have that, any sort of background or foundation in spirituality, then it needs to be something more intentional. When you say sort of deepen our faith, we can make that, very focused or very expansive. And when we go through infertility, I think it's a time where a lot of people lose faith and lose trust. So that's why it needs to be intentional. And when you can tap into something greater, it really releases the pressure and releases the strain that this is in your control, whether it's the power of nature, whether it's Hashem, whether it's God, whether it's Allah. All of these connections can be integral in helping you through the fertility journey.
Yeah. So share with us when you were going through the journey, you reached out to a member in your community. This kind of share what that experience was like for you, sort of some of the things, some of the words of wisdom that they gave you and how that impacted you.
Yeah. So I was working actually at the time at a Jewish agency, and I was just not myself. I was, not working every day, devastated. We were actively going through our journey. And one day I was on the elevator and I met this girl. She looked a lot younger than I am. It was the first time I saw her. So we started to talk, and she told me she was just back from her maternity leave, which felt like a little bit of a trigger. Mm-hmm. And we started talking more, and I asked her what her son's name is. And she told me Shmaya. And I said, what does that mean? And she said, a gift from God. And then my eyes started to well up, and we got talking further, and she was Orthodox. So she was quite religious. And she started telling me about her own journey with secondary infertility. And it was just eye-opening. And I suddenly felt so safe to talk to her. And she told me about this agency in Toronto called Small Wonders. And it helps Jewish couples in many different ways through fertility treatment and infertility struggles. So she gave me the contact, and I reached out to them, and I, told them a little bit about our situation, and they responded the same day, and they wanted to help us. And we set up a meeting, and we talked about different ways they could help us. And part of it was me also learning about different Jewish traditions, which I found to be so interesting. So through the journey, I went to the mikvah, which is, it's like a pool of water that you go into at a specific time in your cycle to cleanse yourself. And after that, it's a very specific time in your cycle. And it's actually when you complete it, you're the most fertile. And just learning about this process was so interesting. And Small Wonders will always hold a place in my heart. And they still exist today, and they help many different couples as they did for us. They have support groups. They can help with financial support, emotional support. I'm not religious, Sarah. I'm quite spiritual, but and I like tradition in my heritage. But I think going through this journey did draw me closer to God, and it made me see things that I never really saw before. And, I think, as you know, there's that saying, everything happens for a reason. Mm-hmm. And I know some people going through the journey find this to be so annoying, but for me, it really rings true, because we live our life from the beginning to the end. But it's only when we're at the end that we can look back and make those connections. That's why it rings true. And I'm sure people listening to this today can make connections to their past and things that have already happened. And at the time, they didn't know why it was happening. But then in hindsight, it all made sense.
Yeah, because you were told that by the woman that was counseling you, was it?
That everything happens for a reason?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of a theme that you read about and hear when you are connected to infertility, right?
That's right.
I mean, it's kind of a theme that you hear when you're connected to struggle.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. Right?
Mm-hmm. And at the time you were like, because I was reading your article there, and at the time you were feeling like what was coming up for you when you first heard it, similar to what I guess many people may feel now if you hear that word.
Totally. Yeah. Like, okay.
Thanks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Then the hindsight being on the other side.
Yeah. And also looking back at other life experiences and only being able to make sense after.
And so how can prayer help when you're in the middle of a struggle?
Prayer is an active way that we can let go and sort of give over our control and release it to something greater. And it's also a way that we can really ask the universe or God or whoever for what it is that we want. It can be a daily routine, which helps to, foster that belief and connection to faith. I find actually with the individuals and couples I work with, well, generally I find people that are more connected to their spiritual faith are happier. Do you not agree?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm more in the spirituality side of things. And I find for me, that just gives me like such peace when I just did something before this recording. Cause I was like, oh, I was feeling a little bit not grounded or a little bit off. And I just, listened to recording, and it just kind of helped me because it takes you just into your heart space. And so you can just feel connected and not like you're bouncing around and always in your head thinking.
Right. It's like an anchor.
Mm-hmm.
It's a release. It's not all on your shoulders. You're not in control.
Yeah. And that's the piece in this, right? As typically we're coaching, type A's, controlling, planning, similar to myself. And it's, you want to plan, you want to, exactly how it's going to happen. And when it's not to say, because I still have a plan for things, that's just how I operate. But now I can release how it's going to happen. And not, and be able to pivot a little more and be able to be open to how, different possibilities. Because if you just know it will happen, you don't need to control how it's going to happen. That to me just gives you that sense of peace and being able to tap into that. Like for me, I get like this little flutter in my stomach where I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah. So that intuition piece.
Yeah. And I think to access that place, as you and I know, you need to be in a calmer state.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I would like to invite you and your partner to a Supercharge Your Fertility Discovery Call. This call is for you if you meet at least one of the following criteria. You've been trying to get pregnant for at least 2 years. You've been through at least one failed IUI or IVF. This call is for action takers. If you're not ready and you wait, the risk is you'll need to wait 2 to 3 months for a spot to open up. If you're seriously considering work with us, go to fabfertile.com. That's fabfertile.com and click on apply here. That's fabfertile, fabfertile.com and click on apply here. Then you'll be booked in and ready to spend 30 minutes to give you the action plan to getting pregnant naturally. And so the prayer then can help us. Yeah. Did you want anything you wanted to say there from the Jewish faith around prayer or anything there?
Yeah. I mean, the prayer can help to fortify your relationship to God, right? And so, creating that connection and being intentional about it. Yeah, I mean, in the Jewish tradition and culture, they're always talking about being fruitful and multiplying.
Mm-hmm.
And so for some, that can be a lot of pressure. There's a prayer from the Kitzur Shelah, and I probably did not pronounce that right. But it's like a special prayer that is recited by those who are trying to conceive. And it's like requesting God's attention. There's different things that one can do to bring to light the fact that this isn't all on you. There's something greater, and we can ask for help in different ways. I think it's pronounced Kitzur Shelah. It's a prayer.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we can try to find it and put it into
put the show notes. Yeah. KITSURSH.
Yeah.
LAH. Yeah. And then what about some rules around faith and how that can impact fertility?
Yeah. So in the Orthodox culture, they do have a regimen that they use, that they follow, that is very beautiful, actually. But when a woman is struggling with infertility or a couple struggling with infertility, it can add some extra challenges. So they follow a special structure where when the woman is having her menstruation cycle, she will sleep in a separate bed, and it's specific to the day that she would return back to the bed with her husband. Actually, that would be the evening that she would have gone to the mikvah. It would be her most fertile night. So it's actually really interesting how this Jewish law was created. And so for someone struggling with infertility because they have PCOS or an irregular cycle, this could add complications for them because they may not, have that perfect cycle to be able to go to the mikvah on that exact day. So it can add some extra challenges to the process.
Like many different faiths, a lot of like gathering together it's centered on, like at the synagogue or community center, it's centered on like families and grandparents and children. And then if you're going to those places, and you're going there for peace and to feel that anchor we talked about. And then, you go in and it's like you're met with a whole bunch of strollers and maybe questions, and the whole thing could feel very triggering. What's your take on that?
I mean, I think that's really anywhere you go, but in this specific situation, when we're talking about the Orthodox population, they often have several children. So you're right. These gatherings are families and grandparents and children, and filled with strollers, filled with pregnant women, could be their fifth or sixth child. So it does add an extra layer. And I think actually COVID and not having the social gatherings has been a reprieve for a lot of the women I work with. And now that things are getting back into, a normality, it's causing some stress. So that's a normal trigger, and we need to create healthy boundaries and find our people, right?
Yeah. So what do you do when in this sort of situation, like especially for like going to the synagogue or going to a church or wherever you may go to worship, and then you're like, wait a minute, I just feel like so triggered in there. Like, I talk a lot about that too with boundaries, and like in this situation.
Yeah, I think, most likely there's others in there that are also struggling as well. And it could be helpful to open up to the rabbi and talk to them about what you're struggling with and see if they can give you some comfort and perspective. And, I would, again, create your, social outings in sync with how you're doing and where are you at in treatment, and recognizing that not every day will be a great day. And then sometimes maybe you want to go because you want to pray and you want to deepen that connection, or you want to listen to a lecture, or you want to sing or listen to some of the music and the prayers.
And as you found at the community center, you found like a lot of support.
I did. The mikvah is actually right in the shul. Mm-hmm. And it's beautiful. And I found a lot of support as, I went through my journey. And I mean, it's still a private matter. I didn't tell everybody, but it's there for you. And I would encourage you to reach out and, get the support. There's other resources that you can access. There's one on Instagram, and she's a doctor. I think her name's Amy Barron. And she wrote, I was supposed to have a baby.
Right.
There's another one called Yesh Tikva, and it's another Jewish support community that is online, as well as Small Wonders, which is the one in Ontario.
Okay, we'll have links to all those. You can check them out. And then as far as life events too, obviously, this is again those triggers, and then you're in a potentially in areas with like parties and weddings and community. Again, you're around, maybe a traditional kind of like perfect family. And then there's many different types of families, like singles and divorcees and widows. And then in this stage, people that are on the family building journey. And how do you navigate some of those events? And, I've talked a lot about this on the podcast too, with triggers and being able to, you don't need to be the first one to arrive and plan the whole event. But maybe can you talk about this from a Jewish perspective and kind of what you're seeing?
Yeah. Well, when I said to you, like, you need to find your people, I mean that there are places, in your city that will address your needs. In Toronto, they have like an LGBT shul and, so there's a lot of different resources out there. I don't think it should be a barrier to creating a structure in faith and deepening your relationship to God.
What about just when I was doing some research for this, it's talked about Jewish breeze. I don't know how to pronounce these words. Breezes, Kedushis. I'm probably completely butchered that. Those sort of life events. And then to me, is it like similar to, deciding what you want to do? I don't know if there's do you find that there'd be extra pressure or from that or not?
I don't necessarily think there's extra pressure to attend certain events, but there are a lot of different holidays and a lot of different family gatherings, and everybody's different in how they negotiate this. Some feel like they need to go and they'll put their own feelings in the back seat, and others will listen to, their own needs and make decisions as these events come up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just not to judge yourself and to do what feels right for you. And to really, many times we don't even know what we want. So to actually think about it, like responses, how, if someone's inviting you to these events, what do you think you're going to do? And a lot of times guilt can come up and judgment and shame and all sorts of other, emotions, which are completely normal.
Totally. And what I often tell my clients is for them to really make their decision closer to the event, maybe even the day of. Yeah. That doesn't mean they can say, they can respond and say they're coming. And if they're not up for it that day, then they don't go.
And any final thoughts on our chat today? Anything you'd like to share?
I think that I want to encourage everyone out there to start to explore getting a little bit deeper into their journey. And I think the best way to do that is starting by calming yourself and getting still and quiet, and then looking around and connecting to something greater.
Yeah, I love that. Awesome. Well, thanks for coming on again, Amira, sharing your words of wisdom on this topic. I know it'll help so many.
Thank you, Sarah. It was awesome talking with you, as always.
I regularly speak with 5 to 10 couples per week who are struggling to have their baby. And although we want to help everyone, we only have 4 spots available per month to work with us. I would like to invite you and your partner to a Supercharge Your Fertility Discovery Call. And this call is for you if you meet at least one of these criteria. You've been trying to get pregnant for at least 2 years. You've been through at least one failed IUI or IVF. This calls for action takers. If you're not ready and you wait, the risk is you'll need to wait 2 to 3 months for a spot to open up. If you're seriously considering working with us, go to Fab Fertile, F-A-B Fertile, and click on Book a Free Call. That's Fab Fertile, F-A-B Fertile, and click on Book a Free Call. Then you'll be all booked in and ready to spend 30 minutes to give you the action plan to getting pregnant naturally. There's a lot of information about which supplements are right for fertility. And like most couples I speak with, you are probably taking a lot of supplements. But are these supplements optimizing or harming your fertility? That's why we recommend professional grade supplements without harmful dyes, fillers, or top allergens, so that you can prepare your body in the best way for pregnancy. And as you may know, we take a functional approach to fertility, and while supplements are included in your customized protocols, which are based on testing, they are only part of the equation. Because there's no pill you can take that will out-supplement the basics, such as poor diet, dysregulated sleep, either moving too much or not enough, and not dealing with chronic stress. So we do recommend basic supplements for both men and women. And these are essential starters that you need to have right now to optimize your preconception health. And I'm excited to offer you a special discount at our Fab Fertile store. You'll receive 15% discount on our professional grade supplements. So simply go to Fab Fertile Store, that's F-A-B, fertilestore.com, to access the basic supplements so that you can prepare your body for pregnancy success without wasting time and money on supplements that may not be right for you. Go to Fab Fertile Store, that's fabfertilestore.com, and save 15% on your order. The Get Pregnant Naturally podcast, including show notes and links, provides information with respect to healthy living, nutrition, lab testing, and is intended for informational purposes only. The information provided is not a substitute for medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment, nor is it to be construed as such. We cannot guarantee that the information provided on the Get Pregnant Naturally podcast reflects the most up-to-date medical research. Information is provided without representation or warranties of any kind. Please consult a qualified physician for medical advice and always seek the advice of a qualified healthcare provider with any questions you may have regarding your health and nutrition program.